And good afternoon, all the participants, valued participants of this NEP program, NEP Orientation and Sensitization program. As was detailed out by the worthy director of the center, that when it comes to NEP 2020, we are on the same platform trying to disseminate knowledge and information related to, especially academic leadership, related to various NEP-related issues, because the implementation of NEP has come up with various different kinds of opportunities as well as challenges. As the academic leaders, we are bound to actually be well versed with the various challenges that has posed and how these particular challenges can be taken care of by us as the academic leaders. I do realize that a number of you might not be holding any leadership positions in your respective universities or in colleges, but a good number of you might be surely. And then a time is surely not that far away when you will also be entrusted with some, we can say, leadership kinds of roles and responsibilities. And other than that, I'm talking about the formal roles and responsibilities as academic leaders, like heads of the departments, the deans of the schools, maybe the principals, the vice chancellors, who knows, depending upon your ambitions and depending upon your contributions and depending upon the various parameters, if you're there to fulfill them, to be the academic leaders. But other than that, also we have different roles and responsibilities to play as faculty members in our own domains, in our own streams, in our own classrooms, which we have to otherwise also take care of. So, whether we are holding any academic leadership position at this point in time or not, but as teachers, we are surely academic leaders. I think that the kind of interaction that we'll have together will get to know the kind of leaders we ought to be and how to create a very enabling atmosphere at our workplaces with whatever rules we have been assigned with, or with whatever rules will be assigned with in the times to come. So the point basically is that we shall try to have it as one of the interactive sessions, given the fact that we will have some exercise in between, and given the fact that leadership touches every one of us in every walk of our life. So that's how we will proceed on. And when it comes to, again, leadership, and when it comes to academic leadership, you would be astonished and surprised to note that the University Grants Commission is laying very huge stress on, I can say, nurturing academic leaders. You know that there are different ways to becoming a leader. One is that if suppose you become a vice chancellor, you become a principal, you become a head of the department, or you become a dean of a school, by and large, we know that it is by dint of your seniority and maybe at times your contribution. But there is hardly any kind of a stress, there is hardly any kind of a focus being given upon whether the prospective candidate who is to hold the one of the important assignments as a leader, as an academic leader, that does he or she have the right acumen, understanding, or an exposure to the various nitty-gritties of headship. So unless and until that is there, mere one's contribution, academic contribution, research contribution, or workload, or for that matter, seniority, is not something that can bring any kind of miracles in our education institutions. We are bound, apart from having these important credentials at our back, we ought to have the exposure to the various nitty-gritties of leadership. We shall know, we shall be knowing that how can we run the affairs of an organization in a very amicable manner, wherever it is required and how it is required, how to basically get things done through others, how to motivate them, how to encourage them, how to inspire them, how to read their pulses, how to understand their emotions, many things. That is what basically leadership is all about. A very holistic approach is required from the side of a leader to be an effective and a successful leader. So the moment a leader is successful, that is indicative of the fact that the organization is actually effective, the workplace is effective, the education institution is effective. Otherwise, there is no fun in saying somebody to be an effective leader. When you say somebody to be an effective leader, you always tag it with the organization that he belongs to. You, in other words, simultaneously say that this organization is effective because the leader has been rated as effective. The leader has been rated as high performing. The leader has been rated as functional, active. So all these attributes that you attribute to an individual leader, in other words, also bring to light the success effectiveness of the organization that he is leading. So they are concomitant to each other. You cannot say a leader is successful, but an organization will not be successful. Leader success, in other words, means the organization success. Likewise, organization success means the individual leader success. And then, of course, he has a group to work with. But then ultimately, you say that a leader is successful because the organization is successful. So there is a parameter that we cannot lose sight of, that if we say an organization is effective, and we can never say that it is effective without the active and effective involvement of the leader concerned. So in the course of today's discussion, we shall be just laying focus on the academic leaders. We shall be focusing on the various challenges that the NEP 2020 has posed. What is NEP 2020 envisioning about the leaders, and how we can become the leaders of effectiveness and efficiency. That's what we shall be looking at, because we know that the organization that we belong to, it is an organization which is not for profit organization. Its main purpose is to actually contribute to the prosperity of the society through creating different types of people, some of them as doctors, some as engineers, some as entrepreneurs. So all that together is what actually will make the nation also proud, can make the society also proud. So naturally, as we have been hearing from the word go, teachers are the builders of nation. Who are teachers? Teachers are serving somewhere. They're serving in organizations. They are serving in higher education institutions. So in other words, once we say that teachers are the builders of nation, then it means that the ones who are actually leading them, they should basically have a proper know-how of extracting good amount of, we can say, expertise, work from these nation builders, the teachers. So naturally, if a leader is himself or herself bereft of the qualities of a good leader, then hardly you can ever expect that the teachers would become as nation builders. Because in many ways, we are tied up with the organizational norms, mores, traditions, values, culture, and the way it has been built up. Who is responsible for that? It is naturally the leader, because leader has a very decisive role in, I can say, creating that culture, where people would come and work, where people would devote their efforts and time for the good of the, I can say, institution as a whole. So we shall be looking at that, and I will just like to share the, the presentation, my presentation, and hope it is visible to you. Okay, just would like to know that whether the slides are visible.
Yes, sir, visible.
Oh, fine, that's great. Now, when it comes to the academic leaders, we say now an important aspect is as to why it is becoming that important. We know that higher education in India is at a turning point now. We know that long lost 1986, we have had the policy transformation. But since then, it's now after almost 34 years that the age old educational policy was to be changed. And then we know that there are some important aims with which the NEP 2020 has been put into place, making education more inclusive, flexible, skill-based. So we don't want that we should have students who are unemployed youth. So the universities and the college should not become the factories of producing the unemployed youth. Rather than, there has to be a proper understanding that the ones who come out of our education institutions, they have a skill set, they have a skill base, they're able to earn their livelihood apart from they having been educated in different spheres of their life. So that basically is an important focus And that is what makes it a little more beautiful in many ways than one. And that is what basically brings in the important role of the academic leader in our education institutions. The traditional ways of running the affairs will no longer be acceptable, will no longer fructify, will no longer be in the fitness of things. Now, let us take a look on this. That when it comes to the NEP 2020, we know that the NEP 2020 has introduced structural and cultural changes, be it the autonomy of institutions, be it the multidisciplinary programs, new governance models, emphasis on research, innovation. All this is important. But we know it for sure that policy alone does not bring change. It is being rightly said that policy alone does not bring change. You may have lofty policies, but until they are implemented and they are implemented properly, we are not going to get benefited with those policies. So is exactly the case with NEP 2020. There are so good ideas in it, so good intent in it, but that is only possible to be achieved when it is put to use. And who will put it to use? We as academic leaders. And how and when we can put it to use? That is only possible once we are well versed with the policy, well versed with its various challenges, well versed with its various opportunities that is throwing for us as I can say the faculty, for us as academic leaders, for our generation, for our students. May I request the one who has his mic on, please? There is somebody's mic which is on. Could you please mute it? Now we say that when it comes to the academic leadership, they have autonomy of institutions, as we say, emphasis on research and innovation. So higher education institution, the colleges, the universities, there is a renewed focus on research and innovation. And when it comes to, again, NEP 2020, how it envisions academic leadership, it indicates that effective leadership under NEP 2020 requires not just implementing policy changes, but fundamentally transforming how we envision, deliver, and measure education in service of India's future generations. So, in other words, we are at a space and at a place where we have to properly visualize where NEP 2020 wants us to move to. What is the intention? What is the vision of NEP 2020? And we are able to grasp it properly, then only can our roles be significant. Then only our roles could be meaningful. Then only can our roles be of some benefit to our education institutions. So if we are unaware of the very integrities of the NEP 2020, it would be impossible for us to make implementation of that vision of NEP 2020, and actually we won't be able to take any benefits from. This transformative journey demands visionary leaders, therefore, who can bridge traditional academic excellence with innovative 21st century approaches, ensuring equitable access to quality education while also fostering research, innovation, and global competitiveness. All these things have to be kept in mind when by our academic leaders in order to take the benefit of NEP 2020 and in fact take the benefit of, I can say, the NEP 2020 framework. You know it for sure that when it comes to the academic leaders, we have registrars, HODs, and faculty as such. Faculty leaders, they will decide how well NEP 2020 is realized on the ground. So leadership is not about position authority, it's about restoring balance and fairness. Everything that a leader has to do, be a vice chancellor, a principal, a dean, everybody has a role to play in order to make our education institutions more vibrant and make them more active. Then from an academic point of view, we need also to have one important consideration when it comes to making a difference between the leader and management. While when it comes to management, I mean, gone are those days when a head of the department or dean of the school, or for that matter, the principal of a college would just look at only the class scheduling of classwork, will only look at whether the classes are being run, whether the exams are being run on time. That is not something a very innovative or a dynamic or a transformative role of a leader, especially under the given circumstances. This is something which is very routine. So, as a result of that, we call these as simple managerial activities. These are to be otherwise, we can say, discharged by the academic leaders. These are routine things. An academic leader has to think beyond this. He has not to get trapped in these routine managerial activities in his or her organization, in his or her institution, but has to rise above all. He has to move forward to coming up with creating a vision, inspiring others, navigating change. So that's why we say that when it comes to the academic leaders, their job is to creating uncertainty. They will not maintain status quo. They are not much bothered about the status quo. That is the job of a manager. A simple and a very stark difference between a leader and a manager is this: that manager is there to maintaining the status quo, whereas the job of a leader is to create uncertainty, do something very differently. That is basically the role of a leader. And today's academic leaders are in need of having this kind of inclination and predilections and understanding. They cannot just be there to looking at whether the exams are being run, classes are being conducted on time, and so on and so forth. That is simple managerial activity. And today's leaders have to go beyond that, because NEP 2020 does not focus on all these smaller, though they are very important and very significant issues, but these are the ones that have been already now taken care of. We have to move forward. We have to be more forward looking. And for that, we have to create the vision. We have to be doubly sure that we are creating the vision, we are setting the direction for the organization. That's why all this slide is moving, please. Our slide is moving. Yes, just want to know from you that are the slide is moving. There is no response from your end. I'm just asking that are the slide is moving, please? May I know are the slide is moving?
Yes, sir.
Okay, please. So the leadership process basically involves setting a direction for the organization, aligning people with that direction through communication, motivating people to action. This is what a leader is all about. Leader's job is not come and sit in his or her cozy room. Leaders, academic leader's job, be he the head of the department, be the dean of the school, a principal, or a vice chancellor of a university, these important, we can say, dignitaries
हाँ बोलिए ना मैडम.
in our educational setup have a very
नहीं,
important
मैं
and
इधर हूँ कंट्रोल
decisive,
रूम में.
very
अच्छा अच्छा अच्छा
decisive role to
ओके.
play in order to make our organizations what is called basically the inspiring leaders. So that is what leadership is all about. That's what the academic leaders have to look for. We say that it gives direction, like they have to come up with a strategic vision, they have to influence the culture. These, I can say, leaders, they have an important role to play to influence the very culture. As I said in the beginning as well, their job is to creating a very enabling atmosphere. Every leader, every person, be he a simple teacher not holding any, I can say, academic position in his or her organization, institute. No, a teacher himself or herself is a leader. They also have got some important responsibility to discharge as leaders. Like, therefore, they have to influence the very culture and then also call for shared governance. These are some of the important things I will be just focusing very merely on one or two. Like, for example, strategic vision. In academia, a leader direction is often not a rigid command but an articulation of a strategic vision. This is very important. That in academic institutions, the point basically is just a minute, please. I have an important call to attend. Just a minute. Hi, hello, assalamu alaikum. Tariq sir. Oh, alhamdulillah. So, soos mela sin sabah. So, good, huh? मैं सोच ना असा अके सो करेक्शन गलत तथ तुमिस कहें तो बस बाकी बस ओके मे शौकत साहब सुबह से वोनमुत अर्ली इन द मॉर्निंग टोल्ड शौकत साहब बट एनीवेज ही मस्ट हैव मिस्ड इट कैरी ऑन प्लीज ओके सॉरी. So when it comes to the strategic vision that an academic leader should have, we say that that rigid command and control is no more something that's acceptable by in our education institutions, especially. So the a leader has to have a direct, we can say, strategic vision about his own institution. He has to always look forward to keep in mind that how my institution will grow, how it will prosper, how the student of my department, of my we can say institution, of my college, of my university will, I have a holistic personality development, and alongside, how will they earn livelihood? What important skill sets are required by them in today's job market? How they can grow themselves and how they can grow personally. So that is something, a vision that today's academic leader has to have, rather than to fall prey to a routine kind of an affair of simple classwork or running the exams and like that. A dean or a departmental head, for example, may direct the faculty to innovate the curriculum to align with the institutional goal rather than how to teach. His job is not to tell him how to teach, rather than he has to always work on looking at the changes in the curriculum, how you should bring in your own stream and domain the change in your own curriculum. That has to be the role of a dean. That has to be the role of the departmental head. Likewise, then a directive to foster interdisciplinary research. That is what a leader has to do. That how can we collaborate with the rest of the departments of the college, rest of the departments of the university, how various departments will collaborate with each other in order to come up with a interdisciplinary research project or a research as such. This is what they have to think about. This is where they have to devote their own time and energy. And this is only expected from a person who is a real visionary academic leader, not by a traditional leader. Likewise, as I said in the beginning also, that a leader has to play a very, very important role on influencing the culture of the institution. Very essential, very important role. Directions of AL can be a form of influence, setting the tone of what is valued. What do we value here? That is very important. The direction is a signal about the institutional culture. So he creates that kind of a culture, what I value. And then he accordingly guides his own people, his followers, how to follow that, how to follow what he is basically envisioning about the institution. The direction is a signal about the institutional culture. Consistent praises and rewards for collaborative projects by leader would signal institutional priorities. I may give an example to you, of, and you might be also having several examples, where, for example, you have got a leader, a vice chancellor, or a head or a dean of a school focusing and emphasizing on something. Let's say, for example, focusing on projects. I have seen it in my own university, University of Kashmir. We have had one of the vice chancellors, and you know that from the day one, he started focusing on projects, calling faculty members, deans, heads of the departments, and in every meeting, he would stress always on projects, that faculty should necessarily get funds, should necessarily submit projects in various funding agencies and get funds from there. So, and then subsequently, when there were interviews also, in those interviews also, many a times he would ask the faculty that whether the faculty has got a project or not. So it was kind of giving a kind of a signal that what matters to me is research projects. What matters to me is research. What matters to me is patents. What matters to me is innovation. Have you done it? Are you doing it? So he was kind of more emphasizing on these things. So leader, by these kinds of acts, is actually trying to create a culture, which is what we call as an institutional priority or a culture. I value this. I don't value that. So this is how we can say and we can interpret leaders can play an important role in our education system. A cue for a faculty to prioritize collaboration and grant writing over other activities, aligning with the unwritten rules and values of the institution. Means what I value is not necessarily that I will put this in writing, but this is what I tell to you of a norm, and you have to obey it, you have to go by it. And so I was giving an example of one of the vice chancellors of my university, and who would thoroughly emphasize only on one thing, that was the projects seeking, or raising funds from the funding agencies related to the projects. This was something that he had in mind and he was always focusing on. So, likewise, every leader has his own mind and vision and understanding of the things. And naturally, the only thing that is required is that how timely he is, how current he is, how much he is able to understand the pulse of the market, how he is able to understand the requirements of the market, and then accordingly try to see to it that how my institution, how my college, how my university can fulfill this, how my university and college can, I can say, deliver on the requirements of the market, how they can accordingly, frame, shape, and build the student base. What should be done by a leader? That's something we have to keep in mind, that a leader has to be absolutely very innovative and very current and very timely, should have a proper understanding of what is required under the given circumstances, instead of just focusing on some routine kind of tasks. Then, before I proceed on, I would like to just deliberate on two important things that you have to keep in mind when it comes to leadership perspective. Are you hearing me properly? Am I audible to you, please?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Very much audible to you. So let me just give you a brief about the various models and theories of leadership before we proceed on. Like when it comes to leadership perspectives, two important perspectives are very important. One we call as a trait perspective, and the other one is termed as a behavioral perspective. These are the two important perspectives on which, if not all, but good number of models are actually based. What is trait perspective? Trait perspective actually indicates that leaders are born with some innate qualities and characteristics. And these characteristics and these features make them successful leaders. So, if at all we have to identify the difference between or differences between an effective and a non-effective leader, the best way is to look at the traits, the innate capacities and capabilities that they have, which is what actually makes them different from each other. That's what we call as the trait model or trait perspective of leadership. So the basic focus is actually on the trait of the leaders. Unlike this, there is a behavioral perspective which is actually focusing on not the traits but on the behaviors of leaders. What do leaders do to become successful leaders? What do leaders do to become effective leaders? What is something very different and special with these, we can say, leaders, that they are successful, they are very effective leaders? Behavioral perspective is indicative of the fact that we have to look into the behaviors of the leaders. Now, before we proceed on with these trait and the behavioral models, I have a very small exercise for you to do. If you are hearing me properly, you have to just have your, cameras on, and you can have your mics as well on. I would like you to have your cameras on, please. I can see only one. a few of you now are there. So I would like to have your cameras on. And in order to do this exercise, this exercise is a very small one for you to do. And this exercise has got 8 various dimensions. What you have to do simply is you have to encircle the 3 that describe you the most. The 3 that describe you the most. And then you have to encircle also 2 that you want to grow into. First of all, the characteristics, the traits that you have. Beginning, for example, with visionary, then you have ethical, then you have innovative, likewise you have collaborative, you have authoritative, bureaucratic, you have empathetic, and the last trait here it indicates is political. So all you have to do is you have to just encircle the 3 which describe you. And then also you have to encircle 2 that you want to grow into. Have you got my point? Did you get what I say, please? Did you get what I'm saying, please?
Yes, sir.
I say, can you do it, please? Kindly have your cameras on and proceed on with this exercise.
रुको बाद में
Are you doing it, please?
बाद में
You have to encircle 3 traits that describe you, and you have to also encircle 2 that you want to grow into. May I hear something from someone? Which 3 traits have you identified for yourself that describe you? Yes, there is one, Datta Wagmere. Dr. Datta Wagmere, may you please let me know which 3 traits you have and which 2 you want to grow in? You can have your mics on. The ones who would like to speak with me, they can unmute their mics and they can talk to me, please. Let us have it a bit interactive. Are you hearing me? What about this Bhagashri Daraskar? Dr. Bhagashri Daraskar, may you please tell me the 3 traits that you have already and the 2 that you want to grow into?
Well, yes, sir. I know I'm visionary.
Just a minute. Yeah. Just,
And even
okay.
I'm collaborative.
You
But
are visionary. Second one?
mine are 1, 3, and 4.
1?
3 and 4.
Okay. Which ones you want to grow into, please?
Yeah, actually, authoritative. I am not authoritative. I can't give authority or what I can say, delegate the work properly. And second thing is no politics at all.
Yes, please.
So I cannot be political, and I'm bit shortage of authoritative kind of thing in me. So I want to improve in 5 and 8.
Okay, okay. So you want to grow into political and authoritative.
Yeah.
Fine. Anybody else would like to share his thoughts? Minal Patil, would you like to? Anyone else? I just wanted you to have your cameras on. Yes, please. Am I audible to you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Could you
Yes,
please
sir.
tell
Yes, sir.
me the ones that you want to grow into and the ones that you already are? This is a very small exercise. It will just kind of rejuvenate you and activate you. Otherwise, you might feel sleepy because it's an afternoon session, and mostly after lunch we have these kinds of sessions. So anybody else would like to share his experiences or share his thoughts on the questionnaire, on the scale? Are the slides visible?
So you are visible. The slides are not visible.
Okay, are they now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So anybody else only except one. The rest of the participants are not sharing their reflections on their leadership traits. Which is not good. But anyways, if you don't want to share, but that's not something that we should carry on with. As faculty and as scholars, you should have this kind of a patience and should in fact have interacted on this important issue, should have, shared your views on where you stand in terms of these 8 traits. Now let me move on to the next one. What makes an effective academic leader? You know that you ought to be very visionary, very collaborative, very ethical, very adaptive, very innovative, and very empathetic. These are some of the important, one can say, leaders' traits a leader should like or should have these traits. And what should not be there with the leaders? Correctives, the pitfalls to avoid, that a leader should normally avoid. Say, for example, the one who is a very visionary, a very innovative, and a very collaborative does not require to have a bureaucratic rigidity in or with him. What is the need to have bureaucratic? Then likewise, avoid favoritism or bias in resource allocation. So is the case avoiding politicization of academic decisions, balancing autonomy with accountability. So these are some of the things that a leader should do away with rather than be a part of them. Should in no way be part of them. Bureaucracy is not something which is tenable, which is acceptable in the academic circles. Likewise, bureaucracy, this favoritism is not again going to lead us anywhere good. Then again, politicization of the academic decisions, we have to be very careful and cool and calm about it. That politicization of the decisions will nowhere lead us nowhere. Now, when it comes to the two perspectives, as I talked about, trait perspective and the behavioral perspective, one of the important takeaways of these two perspectives is that trait perspective indicates that you can have an effective leader, but that is possible only by making a proper and rigorous selection. So while you are selecting a leader, and if you hold a view of traits or you hold a trait perspective, then in that case, you have to try all your best that you select the most relevant person who has got some given traits, which will make him as a successful leader. Unlike a behavioral perspective, and this perspective actually, entails that you may not have leaders born. So what you can do at the most is that you can make leaders. You can make leaders by letting them know the behavior of successful leaders, by making them to imbibe the kind of leadership behaviors that is with the successful leaders. So in that context, the behavioral perspective is actually a more advanced kind of a perspective, which is not just confining leadership to made concept, made perspective, that leaders are made. Nobody else can become a leader. Rather, it is focusing on that part, that you could also be a successful leader, provided you are shown the path of the effective, successful, and we can say the prosperous leaders, the leaders who have taken their organizations to newer heights. What behaviors have they exhibited? That plays an important role. Now, since we were talking about the traits earlier on, so many things are there that surely will have an impact on the leadership perspectives. Since we are discussing now a behavioral perspective, you know that from 1940s to 60s, some research was conducted to just look at the uniqueness in the way effective leaders behave. This is what I was stressing upon. Now, look, if suppose you want to be a very successful and a very effective academic leader, how will you become so? Is it by being bureaucratic? Is it by concealing the things? Is it by being political? Or is it being empathetic? Or is it being innovative, visionary, that will make you a effective leader? We have to look into that. So what happened? What happened in 1940s and 60s? Two important, these universities, one Michigan University, the other one Ohio State University, they launched a research just trying to look into the correlation between leader behavior and the subordinates' performance and satisfaction. As I said in the beginning as well, if a leader is successful, that means organization is successful. Then only you say that a leader is successful. His performance is reflected in the satisfaction of his subordinates, in the satisfaction and in the performance of his subordinates. If the very satisfaction and if the very performance of his subordinates is not that good, that person is not, I can say, worth calling an effective leader. No, he's not worth calling a successful leader. Are you understanding my point? Am I right in what I'm saying to you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, because a leader's effectiveness is indicated by how employees perform, how followers perform. If they are not performing well, that simply would mean that leader is not that effective. He hasn't been able to inspire them, encourage them, motivate them for the good. Therefore, what these two important universities, they tried to locate and identify was which particular behaviors are there with the successful leaders. One study was conducted by Michigan University, the other one by Ohio State University. Now, have a look on this. What did they find ultimately? They had more than 1,000 dimensions in order to find out which particular behavioral characteristics of leaders make them successful leaders. Now, we can say the respondents were asked to rate their leaders' behaviors, and what they rated was initiating structure and consideration. Two important dimensions. One is initiating structure, the other one is consideration. Initiating structure has to do with basically knowing one's role, tasks. What is my role? What tasks I have for myself? What tasks I have to do? So a leader has to be well versed with that part. That what is my role in this organization? If I have joined here, if suppose I am heading the department, I am a dean of a school, I am a principal, I am a vice chancellor. What is the role that I am to display? So therefore, initiating structure is all the more necessary. And related to this is not only that you have to identify your role, but you have to also identify the role of your subordinates. You should be in a proper position to identify your personal role in the context of the organization that you have been appointed as a leader, as an academic leader, but also simultaneously you should look at your subordinates, their role, what role they have to discharge, what role they can discharge. So you have to look at that as well. So this was the first thing that he noticed. Second thing that came out of this university was the consideration. Consideration means respecting others, giving respect and deferring others, seeking their inputs. That is what is called the consideration. Look for a while that you are running a department and you have 10, for example, employees under you. You are giving all sorts of warmth, feeling to the 9, but not the 1, for whatever reasons. How would that one person be feeling in that organization? Would he be not so suffocated? Would he not be just ostracized? Would he not dislike that organization or a workplace? Do you think so?
Yes, sir.
That's very important. So, what is essential is therefore the feelings, the ideas of the, I can say, of our followers is a must for us to know about. So, this is what Ohio State University came up with. Then, since, as I said, the two universities concurrently conducted this research, the other one was the Michigan University. And what did they also find? They again found two important, I can say, characteristics or two important behaviors of the leaders. One is employee oriented leader, the other one is production oriented leader, which is akin to the previous one, Ohio State University's initiating structure and consideration. Well, when it comes to employee oriented leaders show concern for subordinates, fostering a supportive work environment and encouraging participation in the decision making. When it comes to production oriented leader, employs tasks or technical aspects of the job, or I can say focused upon in order to attain the group goals. So it means the behavior of a leader is skewed both towards employee feelings and orientation and also towards production orientation. So a leader is the one who is not, preferring one over the other, but both have got almost the same preference. Both have got by and large the same preference in the eyes of the leader concerned. So he is trying to balance between the two in order to attain the organizational goals and objectives. So balance is important. Both, that is, a leader has to initiate this and structure and also have the consideration. But there is a kind of a research perspective on this. A point actually is that when and how, where should a leader be considerate and when should he initiate the structure? Means where a leader has to be assertive and where a leader has to be considerate. Because it is quite paradoxical that if we on one side say that a leader has to initiate structure, on the other side he has to be considerate as well. On one side we say that he has to be tough, he has to deal with his followers, he has to task them, he has to give various assignments to them. On the other side we have to have a consideration for them, for their feelings and for their inputs. So, a leader could be surely in a kind of a fix if this is a scenario. Now, what should he do? We know it for sure that when it comes to the employees and or followers, we have various different types of, for example, the followers. As is the case in our classroom settings, we know that some students are very able, very competent, and they are also willing to do anything that you give them an assignment, you give them anything, they're ready to do it. They are willing, and they have got the required amount of competence as well. So in other words, they are the ones who need not to be directed much, because they are the ones, one is given a instruction, they will follow it and they will do it, because they have got both competence as well as willingness to do. Then we have some sorts of employees who are, for example, they are competent, but they are not willing to do. Competence is there. So in other words, if we have got employees who are competent, we need not to initiate structure. We need not to tell them what to do and how to do it, because that much is known to them. They are competent to that extent. But what is lacking in them is, consideration. Should we be considerate towards them or not? We have to be, because one part is already done by them, the other part is to be done by us. We have to understand their feelings, we have to understand their inputs, and we have to accordingly go along. So we can have a case where employee is both competent and willing to do, nothing doing with him, he will run of his own, compared to the one who is competent but is not willing. The third other category could be where a person is not competent but is willing. Are you following me properly? Am I audible to you?
Yes, sir.
Fine. So we may have a kind of a situation where we might be, for instance, I can say we might have the employees who are willing to do, but they don't have the required amount of competence. So we have to initiate structure there. We have to tell them what to do, how to do it. Other part is already with them. Other part is that of consideration. Other part is that they are willing to do. Then we may have one more category of employees who are neither willing to do nor are they competent. They don't have anything of this sort in them. In that case, we have to be very, very low on consideration, but very high on initiating structure. We have to let our employees know what they have to do and how they have to do it. Because in that case, we cannot be considerate. It is exactly the case in our classroom setting, where we might have some students who would not be willing to, I can say, participate, would not be willing to do the given assignments, would not be that punctual. So there you have to initiate the structure. You have not to be too considerate and too liberal towards them. Otherwise, they will just spoil the whole system that way. So therefore, when it comes to this part, and so after having discussed a bit of the trait perspective of leaders, the behavioral perspective of leaders, and also having done the exercise as well, let us move our shift towards NEP 2020 and focus on academic leaders. Where is there a focus on academic leaders? Why is academic leader becoming an important, we can say, personality and an important, we can say, point of discussion or point for discussion in NEP 2020? We say that there are recommendations of NEP 2020 for transforming the higher education institutions. And not only that, but to change the educational ecosystem. The student should feel that a very different system is now in practice, which is quite contrast to what was there already. For example, we talk about introduction of autonomy, though this is a subject to matter, subject to discussion and subject for discussion, that how much of autonomy is there with the institutions. Likewise, multidisciplinary system. Yes, of course, we have a multidisciplinary system. These students are not supposed to be, I can say, held up in some cocoons, a particular stream that they've chosen for themselves. They shall not be pushed to that alone. They may go beyond that. Maybe they find their interest in somewhere else than the kind of traditional courses or the course that they have sought and they have got admission for. Likewise, there is a multiple entry and multiple exit points. Again, a very different kind of a scenario where we would not allow a student to leave for a while, but here is a system where a student can, enter and he can leave at his will. Yes, of course, there are some riders that were necessary and that have been put forth. But otherwise, the system entails a multiple exit as well as a multiple, we can say, entry point. Then we have got academic banks of credits. wherever credits will get accumulated over a period of time. So in each semester, you have got this number of credits to have been earned by you. And so, and likewise, there would be that academic bank of credit to keeping record of all these credits that you have earned under a particular enrollment number. Then likewise, proposed increases gross enrollment ratio. Again, from 26.3% to 50% is something that is very ambitious a plan, and that is something that the higher education institutions have to do. So naturally, academic leaders are concerned with how to implement this autonomy. What is this autonomy all about? And likewise, for everything, they need not to seek the approvals from the higher ups. So in certain cases, we find people having autonomy, but still not able to do the things of their own, still are there to seek the approvals from the higher ups, which is quite, disgusting and not an appropriate act on the part of the academic leaders. While they have an authority to exercise, they should necessarily do that. And why they won't have, then in that case, if they seek the approvals from the authorities, that's of, that is sensible. That is correct. That is the right way of doing it. But in all cases, that's not the way all academic leaders should. Now, have a look on this again when it comes to NEP 2020, the strategic role in implementing NEP reforms, introduction of structural, curricular, and pedagogical changes. Academic leaders such as principals, HODs, and deans must interpret these reforms and strategically. That's what I'm saying, that a leader has to have a proper understanding of the NEP 2020. If he is bereft of, he is not knowing it, he won't be able to effect any kinds of changes. Likewise, am I audible to you, please?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we have a transition to multidisciplinary educational system again. Academic leaders must redesign curricula, promote cross-disciplinary collaborations, and guide faculty in adapting to broader teaching and learning, we can say, approaches. So again, an important aspect in the NEP 2020 is the transition to the multidisciplinary educational system, as I talked about earlier as well, that it's a very holistic kind of a learning system that has to take place, and that is likely to take place in many parts of the country, which are already taking place in our part of the country, that's in Kashmir University. We have already adopted it, and this year also we have got the MCOM, the PG students, and all other streams of the university where it has been already adopted. Then greater autonomy through the formation of multidisciplinary educational research universities. Again, a more, I can say, autonomous institutions have been made by giving them a kind of a free hand in conducting research. And that's what they are called as MERUs. Effective leadership is required to build onto governance, quality assurance mechanisms, and institutional innovation. And this is what is required when it comes to the major universities. Likewise, there is a focus on research, innovation, and quality. Now, as we know, that all the higher education institutions, especially when it comes to the colleges, a good number of them have been entrusted with. Now, because of the kind of the nature or the nature of the program or the nature of NEP 2020, every college which is now implementing NEP 2020 has to necessarily have a focus on research culture, facilitating faculty development programs, guiding refresher and orientation courses, and fostering collaborations to enhance institutional research output and societal relevance. Likewise, we have technological integration, we have competency-based and outcome-based education, again, CB and OB. And the point basically is that nowadays, we have to keep in mind that our PLO follows, CLO follows the PLO. So PLO has got a prominence. PLO is the program learning outcome, the broader learning outcomes of the programs. And then every course in every program has got the course learning outcomes. These course learning outcomes have to sync with the broader, what we call as the PLOs, the program learning outcomes. So if there is no linking between the two, if the program, learning outcomes are way different from the CLO, CLOs have to be changed properly. A proper, I can say, thought process is therefore involved in aligning these together, PLO and CLO. That means you have come with a course and you have come up with the CLO for that course. Then you're trying to match that CLO with the PLO. And if it mismatches or if the correlation is very, very low, then in that case, it further, kind of encourages you to rethink about it. Rethink in the sense that your course content might be changed. You might have to improve it further in order to sync it with the overall program learning outcomes. So it seems to be a very Herculean task, but this is something that has to be done properly by all of us as the faculty members. So likewise, we have got equity, inclusion, and lifelong learning, capacity building, and faculty empowerment. Again, NEP success largely depends on motivated and trained, empowered faculty. And that's very important. And academic leaders must facilitate regular faculty development programs, leadership training, and mentorship, which is important. And this is something that has to be done at the college and at the university level. But we have to normally basically sponsor our faculty for these various faculty development programs so that they are properly exposed to the nitty-gritties of leadership, how it can be implemented. That is very important. Implementation part of the NEP 2020 is more important, and that is very essentially important that it should begin with what is called the academic leaders. And since we are passing through this important phase, and as future academic leaders, we have to always keep in mind two important, I can say, ways of dealing with our people in our organizations, be it the teaching or non-teaching staff. How should we deal with them? How should we talk to them? How should we sense their pulses? And how should we move to progress and prosperity? You know that when it comes to the academic leaders, we don't have, as was the case in the traditional leadership style. It depends upon the kind of a person you are, whether you are traditionally oriented kind of a person or not. Like in traditional leadership, the focus is on achieving organizational objectives through hierarchical structures and clear authority lines. Everybody knows what is his role. There is a clear authority line drawn in advance that every faculty member, every non-teaching member should be well versed with. Then academic leadership is therefore, in this particular case, in this hierarchical structure and clear authority line, there is a given mechanism, there is a given parameter, and it therefore suits to a kind of a culture which is control-centric, which is very much control-centric. So if you have not done the given job by the given time, you'll be punished for it. Or if you have done it by the given time, you'll be rewarded for it. So there is a kind of a control-centric system that's in existence in order to ensure that there is a hierarchical structure being obeyed and the authority is being respected. Unlike this, this may be possible in our corporate world, maybe in other sectors. But when it comes to the educational one, a system where there has to be proper, I can say, transparency, there has to be a fairness in the system. In that, we require to have a very collegial kind of a system in vogue, where what happens is that it's a very unique kind of a culture and policies of institutions are given. So what is essential here is that collegial. You know that when it comes to the departments, be it the university level or the college level, we have departmental committees. These departmental committees are supposed to take a call on, to take a decision on different issues. So that is what basically we mean by a collegial system. A system where one person is not important. Every person is important in the department. So you are a head of the department does not mean that you are supreme to others. The only thing is that you are by dint of your seniority superior to others, but every other person has a right to give his or her input in order to march forward. And therefore, a very transparent and a very fair system in the, I can say, college is or in the universities is bound to take place. And that is how you can basically make some headways and we can make some progress. Otherwise, we might remain just past in the past in case we are not that transparent, we are not that, we can say, democratic. So, when it comes to academic leadership, important thing that we bear in mind is that no control and command system is possible to work better. Rather than it is always the collegial system that has to do and that has to flourish. And now, as academic leaders, how would you be able to do this is very important. For example, you have to always give, I can say, you have to have always, a focus on, or you have to always uphold basically the departmental committees, departmental research committees, seeking inputs from various members of the departments, making it so democratic that everybody has a right and everybody has a reason to participate in the decision making process, thus making it very collegial rather than making it bureaucratic in the sense that it's a one man show. That should not be the case. In education institutions, one man show, sole leadership does not work. What works always is a very transparent, a very fair, and a very democratic setup in which everybody is involved when it comes to taking a decision or making a decision. Then you know that we have got some major personality attributes that play a very important role in influencing our decisions. Some of are very achievement oriented, some of us have got affiliation orientation, some of us are very autonomous in nature, some are very domineering and dominant. That is possible to happen. I have a very small questionnaire for you. If it visible to you, is it visible to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I just would like that against each item, you put a score or a rating, we may call it as. There is a rating beginning from 1, strongly disagree, to 7, strongly agree. In between, there are several other response bands like disagree, somewhat disagree, neutral, somewhat agree, and agree. Each one has got its own rating. 1 stands for strongly disagree, while as this 7 stands for strongly agree. So what you have to do simply is that you have to have a pen, or you can even use these smartphones, wherein for every one item after you read it, that you put a rating, you put a score. Say, I get satisfaction from meeting difficult challenges. You may put a score of 3, 4, 7, as you wish, suits you or is relevant to you. So till you are done with the 16th item, then we will proceed further. Am I right? Can you do it, please?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please. Are you done with this exercise, please? Yes, dear participants, are you done with this exercise?
Can anybody confirm among the participants? Please,
Yes.
anyone.
Yes.
Yeah, fine. So if you are done with this, you can have the different scores. There are actually four dimensions. Simply talking about the achievement, affiliation, autonomy, and dominance. These are the major personality actually attributes, and these are the ones who actually influence over decisions also. And if suppose you have a score, high score on any of the dimensions, because 1 to 4 is, for example, achievement. 5 to 8, these items are related to affiliation. Then 9 to 12, they are related to autonomy. 13 to 16 are related to the dominance. Now it depends which personality trait is dominant in you. For example, if it is, you get a very high score for a dimension which comprises of five items, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Rather 5, 6, 7, 8 only, 4 items. And this pertains to affiliation. Now, if suppose you are high on this, it means that you will sacrifice everything for maintaining a good relationship. Then likewise, if suppose you are high on a dimension called dominance, from 13 to 16, 13, 14, 15, and 16, these are the items which cover the dominance dimension. So if your score is very high on this, you will be always assertive, very dominating, and very kind of an autocratic kind of a person, will not necessarily listen to others. So is the case with the first four, 1 to 4. It is concerned with your achievement. If suppose your score is higher on this particular dimension, which comprises of these first 4 items, then it means that you're more focusing on achievements. This is how you can read about your own personality traits, which can have the influence on your working at the workplace as well. Sorry for this, there is some problem with the slide as such. Just a minute. That's fine. Now, have a look on these competencies for effective leaders. 3 important components are there. One we call as an attitude, the knowledge, and the behavior. We say that when it comes to the attitude, what good leaders are. Knowledge, what good leaders know. Behavior, what good leaders do. 3 important aspects which are a must for making a leader a very effective one. For example, when you talk about the attitude, what good leaders are: self-aware, flexible, open, honest, discreet, visible and outgoing, and they're willing to be wrong, accept advice and support. That means that these leaders who are, their attitude is like this, that they accept that they could at times falter. They can sometimes commit mistakes. Now look at a person that he never feels and never thinks of that he can ever commit a mistake. As a result of that, he is not ready to accept the advice as well, because he feels that I am all okay and I'm all good. I cannot commit mistakes. Rather, a person's attitude has to be that I can commit mistakes, And if you are ready to accepting that, you may be ready to in accepting the advice from the other side as well. So even if you are a leader holding a position in a given organization, still you cannot claim to be always right, impeccable. That's impossible. Likewise, sensitive to the views of others. Again, you would be more sensitive to the views of others, as we discussed in both Ohio State University research as well as the Michigan University research. Both indicated that one of the important dimensions of the leaders' behaviors is what is called a consideration or employee, we can say, orientation. And that basically indicates the sensitivity of leaders towards the feelings and views of others. Then again, knowledge. What good leaders know? They are knowledgeable about university life. They understand how the university system works. They're not bereft of it. They have a quite good information about the university system, and then they understand the academic processes, how different things are possible to happen. I was just hearing yesterday only one of the private, institutions, and they have come up with a program without getting it approved by the affiliating university. They were affiliated to some university. They launched the program. They got the students enrolled for the program. And then subsequently, without bothering to get it approved by the authorities, by the university authorities, because the college and that institution is affiliated to the university, a particular university, I will not name that. See the height, how the person can do it, how they can violate the basic norms. So what the leader has simply done is that in order to allure the students, they have come up with some very catchy and a very fancy kind of a program. They named it, and after they got the students enrolled, and after some time, since they have to conduct the examination, how will the exam be conducted? There is no affiliation to any recognized university, and they are approaching of the university to give us the affiliation. So this is how, because either they are bereft of the academic processes or they are playing fool. They are saying that let others have a mercy on our, for example, for our misdeeds, and so that we just get through. Point basically is that a leader has to be quite aware of the academic processes. Then only can he be a successful leader. So if as heads of the department, dean of the schools, we don't have any understanding of the statutes, for example, we may fall prey to the dictates of our clerks, the babus. They will come up with different kinds of interpretation of the rules and regulations, and we don't have of our own. We have to accept what they say. So therefore, we have to have that in mind. Likewise, behavior. What do leaders do? How do they behave? What good leaders do? They work to maintain credibility. They act as role models. They think very broadly and strategically. They engage with others. There are lots of things that are there when it comes to leaders' behaviors in particular. Then ultimately, they negotiate, they communicate things to them, they delegate many things. They're not the ones to be doing everything of their own. They have a trust on others. They delegate, and they empower them initially. They make them this able that they can take the roles tomorrow. So they delegate things to them. They motivate them. So everything cannot be done by a person single-handedly of his own or her own. We have to trust others. We have to empower them, and we have to engage them also in different kinds of actions and I can say things that we have to do as leaders. Motivate others, act as mentors, and build teams. That is how that's where the success of the competent and effective leaders lies. Since I have got to attend some other program very shortly at 3:30 only, that's a valedictory function for one of the programs that my center has organized until now. We have a valedictory function for that program to start at 3:30 sharp. So I would like to just, wind it up here only, but not before I have to hear your inputs, your questions and queries or clarifications, if at all you have any. Please. I will welcome them. The most, though larger part, I could see that you were not that interactive, otherwise, as I would have, wished you to be. But still, then at the end, I would like to, give you a time to raise any questions or to seek any clarifications from me, please. Do I have
Good
any
afternoon, sir.
questions? Yeah, please.
It was very wonderful sessions. So, in every aspect, you have covered all topics. So, I like the uh, all the knowledge you have provided through your session. So, thank you very much for guiding us.
Thank you. So great. So nice.
Sir, one of the question in the YouTube, through YouTube, if you could permit, can we take it?
Yes, sir, please.
Yeah. In the today's era, the Honorable Supreme Court has raised one issue that one decision with regards to this Rohit Vemula case, and the government of India and the different state government has come up with some guidelines, certain guidelines to stop the आत्महत्या रोकने के लिए they have issued some guidelines. So can you please elaborate what is the role of the institutional leadership and particularly the teacher in this era for handling this situation?
Yeah, basically, a very important point. It is actually, as I said in the beginning, also that every one of us, especially as teachers, are the role models, and we have a very important leadership role to play, especially when it comes to being in the classrooms. The kind of counseling that we can provide, the kind of a role model that we can act. And you know that in most of the cases, students, if they find that this teacher has got some deep knowledge, expertise, he is walking the talk, he's very sincere, he's very purposeful, he's very meaningful, there is every possibility that they will take the counsel and they will take the advice of a teacher concerned more than they would take that of their own parents, they would take of anybody else. That's therefore there is an important kind of a role that a teacher makes him, a teacher molds himself or herself, and brings herself to a level where students do consider him to be a role model in every walk of life, in every aspect of life. And in that case, when it comes to then going to the class, and a whole of the class has not to be devoted only to discussing a particular content of a subject that he is discussing. So whether a teacher is teaching science subject, sociology, marketing, commerce, management, or IT, but a portion of this session has to be devoted by a teacher to, I can say, providing counseling. One important aspect in that regard is because we are ourselves parents, we know our children as well. We know what kinds of difficulties and challenges they are facing as well, and we know how we try to handle them. It is likewise a situation if you go as a teacher in the classroom and try to provide a proper kind of a counseling in every class for 5 minutes, because we have to necessarily morally, we can say, uplift our students. So our focus has not necessarily be on completion of syllabus, discussing the course content that we have to otherwise, that we have undertaken for ourselves, but beyond that, teachers role has to be there, and that is that of counseling and advising the students in the classrooms. And then for example, the problem with us is that we are very desperate. We don't know what where does lie our future. Most of the students take up that issue, that we are quite depressed with the kind of happenings, and with whether we have got anything in the future or not. Very futuristic, that whether we are going to earn our livelihood, many things, many issues, and many problems are there, and which a teacher is by and large understanding. One, that we have our own experience as parents. Second, we also have an understanding and eye on the societal issues. So why not to discuss some of them very briefly in each and every, if not every day, but at least once or twice in a week, have that kind of a dose alongside our routine classwork with our students. I suppose that will make a difference. I'm sure that will make a difference.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. In this current year, sir, the Maharashtra has faced a lot of serious situation in this flood and the due to some Ola Dushkal, and our government has taken some serious initiative with regards to that, and most of the university has waived off the fees of the students. So some kind of decisions university leaderships are taking, and the government is also taking. But the mapping of this all the issues with the instrumentally is very crucial part. So, sir, if you could permit, I think there are no more questions. So, can we conclude, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. As I said that I am to, get engaged with one function as valedictory function. My program that I had invited you for, but you could not.
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
on behalf of Malvi Mission Teacher Training Center, Sant Gadge Baba Amravati University and Priyadarshini College of Engineering, Nagpur, I extend my sincere thanks to Professor Nazir sir for such a wonderful and insightful session. And sir, really, whatever maybe the input you have provided here, that will be very useful, and we will definitely ensure you that sir, we will inculcate in our futuristic planning as well as our futuristic teaching as well as research. And with this, I once again extend my sincere thanks to you for your precious time and thought-provoking session here. And with the kind consent of Professor Nazir, sir, I would like to declare that this particular session will be over here. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. So very much.
Participants, please stay be connected. We will continue for our next session. सर प्रीति सुरेश मैडम अभी ज्वाइन होंगे सर.
क्या बात कर
हो. हाँ सर. बोला सर. हाँ बोला सर.
Sir, good afternoon. Shubham here from DY Patil University.
बोला ना सर.
So actually, yesterday we had a discuss, right?
काय आपण मराठीत बोलू शकतो का सर?
हो बोलू शकतो ना.
हा मराठीत सांगा मग काय सांगायचं तुम्ही.
तुम्ही ऑनलाईन ऍक्टिव्हिटीज प्लॅन करताय ना?
हो हो.
ओके, सो काय झालं तुमचं ग्रॅज्युएशन मध्ये किती पर्सेंटेज पास इयर आहे सर?
मला ग्रॅज्युएशन पासिंग इयर माझं 2015 आहे 15 आणि ग्रॅज्युएशनला 73 पॉईंट समथिंग पर्सेंटेज आहे.
अच्छा ओके. सो आता वर्किंग आहात तुम्ही?
हो.
पण किती वर्षाचा वर्क एक्सपिरियन्स आहे?
सध्या वर्क एक्सपिरियन्स आता 16-17 वर्ष. हो 17वं वर्ष सुरू आहे.
कुठलं स्पेशलायझेशन पाहत होता सर तुम्ही MBA मध्ये?
मी ऍक्च्युली सर HR पाहत होतो.
अच्छा पण तो तुम्ही अवेअर आहात ना DY पाटील बद्दल?
हो, हो, हो.
मुंबईला पुण्याला?
मी स्वतः अमरावतीवरनं बोलतोय सर.
अच्छा. सो बेसिकली कसं आहे बघा सर, आता तुम्हाला फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल म्हणजे थोडंसं बेसिक डिटेल्स देतो फक्त ओव्हरऑल फक्त.
एक थोडा वेळ म्हणजे होल्ड करा प्लीज होल्ड करा 2 मिनिट.
हा.
हॅलो प्रोफेसर सुरेश मॅम.
Yes, good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon, ma'am. Good afternoon. Shall we start, ma'am, if you could permit?
Yes, sure.
So, good afternoon, friends. Once again, as we have already earlier discussed before starting the today's session, that is our session have been split into the 2 different parts. First part we have almost completed. Now we are moving towards the another part. Friends, in the morning session, I have shared one document that is released by the IKS division. Before couple of days, 2 or 3 days before, the IKS division, Government of India has released that particular book or the volume 1 that is of the IKS and all the domains that has been designed by the University Grants Commission and the policy makers under the IKS. That has been detailedly elaborated. I think 400 more than 400 pages in this book. So I will request all the participants kindly go through that. Friends, today we will definitely talk on this very much important verticals of this national education policy. That is the Indian knowledge system. Why it is there, how it should be integrated with our curriculum, and most of you have worked on that because the one generic course that the government of Maharashtra has already compulsory in its GR. One generic course will be there on the IKS for the 2 credits, and some couple of faculties are developing the domain specific courses or some IKS division projects also there, those who are working on the particular research projects. So why IKS is there, we will discuss on these very much important aspects with the help of one renowned and scholarly expert, Professor Preeti Suresh, madam. Ma'am, first of all, I extend my warm welcome to you to this flagship program, in particular to this session. Friends, Professor Preeti Suresh, ma'am, is a professor in the University Institute of Pharmacy at Pandit Ravi Shankar Shukla University. She is also the director of this Malvi Mission Teacher Training Center at the similar university and having the similar responsibility on his shoulder. Rather than she is the member of the Chhattisgarh government on the steering committee of the implementation and oversee committee of this national education policy. Therefore, she is a very closely and instrumentally engaged in the implementation of this national education policy, not only at the Chhattisgarh, not only at the Chhattisgarh state, but across the country. Friends, she is a scholarly researcher and having more than 150 articles on his credit. She has, under his able guidance, 11 scholars have been completed their PhD degree, and 2 are right now pursuing. She has completed under his able guidance, 20 scholars have completed their MPharm and pursuing right now 3. She has registered with the Pharmacy Council of Chhattisgarh State. Chhattisgarh State. She is also served in the Guru Ghasidas Vishwavidyalaya before joining this institute, that is the Central University. Also in the Institute of Pharmacy of Jivaji University, Gwalior. before joining of this. She has recipient of the couple of most prestigious award that includes the Dr. Eric Drexler Gold Medal for the best scientific presentation at the international conference in the Kochi 2009. Research fellowship awarded research fellowship by the Mastomian International Foundation in the by Japan in the 2005, and senior research fellowship by the Council of Scientific and the Industrial Research in 1997. She is instrumented and continuously engaged for the professional development and the enhancement of higher education with the different professional bodies. And she is the active member of the Academic Council, Board of Studies, then the chairperson of the board of studies of the pharmacy. She is the director of this institution of pharmacy at not only the Pandit Ravi Shankar Shukla University, but also the across country with the different universities. She has more than 150 articles on his credit that has been published in the reputed national as well as the international journal. She has organize different conferences, seminar, workshop, and particular to this teachers training program in the form of faculty induction program, refresher courses, short-term program, as well as this particular flagship program, that is the NEP orientation and the sensitization program for across the for the faculty member of across the country. She has executed more than four major different four major research project in the domain of pharmacy, and particularly in the novel drug discovery, funded by the different funding agencies. So friends, this is a brief introduction with regards to Preeti Suresh ma'am. She will share her thoughts on this integration of IKS, that is the Indian knowledge system. So without taking too much time, ma'am, I again extend my warm welcome to you and request you to please start with your session. Participant, before starting the session, I would like to request you that please be interactive, because the session should be dialogue, not a monologue. If the session will be going in the dialogue manner, definitely you will get some inputs with regards to this IKS. So ma'am, I once again extend my warm welcome to you and request you to please start with your session. Ma'am, please.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much for a very kind and generous introduction. And also, I would like to thank Professor Mohammed Atiq sir, Director MMTTC, for inviting me and giving me this opportunity to come on this online platform for the NEP orientation and sensitization program that is being organized by Sant Gadge Baba Amravati University. So before I start, I would like to also know from the participants, like, should I continue in English or should we use a mix of Hindi and English? And also, I would like to know, like, what are the various disciplines from which the participants are coming for this program? Yes, please.
Engineering and technology.
Okay, so should I continue in English or should I use a mix of Hindi and English?
As you wish, ma'am.
Okay, okay, okay. So, as you know, this is the NEP orientation and sensitization program, where the basic objective remains to reach out to over 15 lakh teachers across various higher education institutions in the country. And with this objective, this program has been very meticulously designed by the UGC. And one of the sessions or themes that has been identified, that is the Indian knowledge systems. And I'm here to share just some of my perspectives, because right from the beginning, I should make this disclaimer that I'm not an expert in IKS, but I will just try to give you about my understanding and about my perspectives, and also why there is a need to focus on IKS in the present context, and why the national education policy is also emphasizing on integrating in different aspects and different domains of the courses that we are offering through our higher education institutions. So on your screen, I hope you can see the glimpse of the university where I am presently associated with, that is Pandit Ravi Shankar Shukla university which is located in the capital city of Chhattisgarh. But another objective for sharing this screen with you is to also let you know or to share with you the motto of our university. And this motto has been derived from one of the ancient texts, that is Isha Upanishad, which says Agni Naye Supatharai. And if we go by its translation, it means, O fire or O Swaprakash, lead us on a virtuous path to prosperity. So I think this remains our objective in whichever institutions or organization we may be serving as teachers, to not only educate and empower the students who are coming to our campuses, but also to ensure that they are following a virtuous path in whatever role that they are going to play in their forthcoming years. So, with this, I would like to share this quote or this observation by Professor Kapil Kapoor. I hope you have heard the name of Professor Kapil Kapoor. Yes, participants, please. Have you heard this name before? Professor Kapil Kapoor was, or you should say, he was the one who has coined or this term of Indian knowledge systems or Indian knowledge traditions. And there is a large body of work that you can always go and refer to. And it is what he has observed that India's knowledge tradition is very ancient and it is uninterrupted, in the sense like it is just like a flow of Ganga from the Vedas to Sri Aurobindo. Knowledge or jnana, you can say, has been at the center of all the rational and speculative inquiry in India. And it is with this, you will also come across that there are basically three terms that we come across in whatever discussions that we are making about knowledge with the backdrop of Indian knowledge traditions. And these terms are darshana, jnana, and vidya. And definitely, if we try to translate this, there is no exact terms in English, but definitely the words which come closer to it, you can say like darshana, that is the philosophy, or it is the system, or that is the point of view, which ultimately leads to jnana, that is the knowledge. And when this knowledge is gathered in one particular domain or area, it is kept in a very organized and it is in a systematic manner for reflection or for pedagogy, then we use the word vidya, that is the discipline. So, Indian knowledge system, you should say, like, why so much we are hearing this term a lot these days in all these academic forums and whenever we are talking about implementation of NEP, this term pops up again and again. And why this emphasis is being placed on Indian knowledge systems is because the basic aim or basic purpose remains to revive the lost knowledge and overcoming the discontinuity. No doubt there has been a very rich treasure of knowledge and which has been transmitted across generations. And this treasure trove that we are talking about, many of for these, there are no written text, and these have been transferred or transmitted to one generation to another through oral tradition or what we call as the Shruti Parampara. But it has been observed that during last few centuries, due to foreign invasions and due to the colonial rule, you can say, there has been a discontinuity. And somehow the present day generation is not very well aware about what are the rich knowledge traditions and how it is still useful in finding solutions to the modern day problems. So we know that the Indian society, it has been a treasure trove of knowledge, and this knowledge is not something very new. but it has been something which has been gained over thousands of years, and you will see that it is manifested in different forms. It is manifested in different forms of art, different forms of literature, different forms of languages, architecture, culinary skills. So many dimensions are there. But, and this practices, all these ancient practices, these were passed on from one generation to another. And but during some few centuries, you can say last few centuries, there has been a disruption in the intergenerational transfer of this knowledge. Just give me a moment. And that is how you will see that the National Education Policy document is laying special emphasis on the promotion of the Indian languages, arts, and culture. And it is continuity, but to introduce or to integrate it as a part of the curriculum at all levels of education, starting right from the schools till to the higher education. And it is because this policy, the National Education Policy document, this has it has been over 5.5 years since this document was released. It was released on 29th July 2020. And you will see that in different states, because education is a part of the concurrent list where it falls both under the state and the central government. And at different states, you will see that it has some states has been very prompt in adopting this policy, while other states are taking baby steps on introducing this. And one of the major stakeholders in this exercise is no doubt the teachers or we, the faculty members. So it is very important for us to realize like what is the basic objective of implementing the NEP. And for that purpose, I always suggest the fellow teachers that if you have not gone through this national policy document, please go through it, because it is important for us not only to understand the various provisions of the NEP, but also to understand the spirit of the various aspects about why it is talking about implementing or introducing the IKS in our higher education system. So these are not what I have my observations, but it is what has been mentioned in the UGC guidelines for training of faculty on IKS. Now, why so much emphasis is being placed on IKS? I would just like to cite two examples, and which will certainly m- make you appreciate why it is so important for us to understand about our knowledge traditions, and how it is high time that we should try to keep that information, we have to document it, and we have to see to it that others are not exploiting it at our cost. So I hope all of you might have heard about the NEP patent case. Yes, anyone would like to respond?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. What was the case with the NEP patent? Although you can see it on the screen. One of the US companies, WR Grace, had applied for a European patent for the fungicidal properties of a neem oil formulations. And once this came into the public domain, and it was then that the Indian groups and the many international groups and many, you can say, agriculture groups, they opposed the patent because the name has been used for centuries in India for its fungicidal properties. It has been used as a preservative, it has been used as a pesticide, and it was on that ground it was argued that this is not patentable, it does not fulfill the conditions of patentability, and it was a case of biopiracy. And the stiff opposition ultimately forced the European Patent Office to revoke this patent in 2000. And because it was established that this patent is not something new, but it is based on the traditional knowledge which has been existing in this part of the world. Another controversy you might have heard about is the turmeric patent case. Yes, what was the turmeric patent case? Yes, participants, please. There are over 85 participants here. Yes, participants, please. So this turmeric patent case, this also refers to a US patent which was granted for the turmeric for its wound healing properties. And this patent was challenged by the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research, and Dr. R.A. Mashelkar, who was a director at that time, he led this opposition because the use of turmeric has been rampant in India based on the traditional knowledge. It has been used for its wound healing properties since long. So ultimately, this opposition and the CSIR also provided evidence in the form of ancient Sanskrit text, which established that turmeric has been used for centuries in India for its wound healing properties. So, all these two important cases that I'm sharing before you, that is of neem and turmeric, that further draws our attention to the fact that it is very important that we have to be aware about our ancient knowledge systems. We have to be aware about its documentation, and we have to gather the evidences or the you can say validate the claims that has been made in all these texts, because if you are not doing it, then others will certainly come and copy it, and it will be very difficult for us to defend the claims that this has been part of our traditional knowledge systems. But when we are talking about like कि हमारा knowledge systems बहुत ही vibrant raha hai, it has been very enriching, I think sometimes it feels like we are blowing our own trumpet कि हम अपनी तारीफ खुद ही कर रहे हैं. But if we just look around and see how even the global scientists or the global well-known persons have observed about the claims of the knowledge systems that has been uh, prevalent in this part of the world, certainly it will make us to think about it and have some belief in what our knowledge systems actually held. So here I quote one of what has been observed by the famous scientist Albert Einstein, who said that we owe a lot to the Indians who taught us how to count, without which no worthwhile scientific discovery could have been made. And that is why you will see in the NEP also, it has been observed that in framing of the national education policy has been the guiding light. Because in the Indian thought and Indian philosophy, the pursuit of knowledge, the pursuit of wisdom, that is pragya, and the pursuit of truth or the satya, that has been considered as the major or the highest human goal. And not only this, there has been many foreign travelers who have been visiting this part of the country, this part of the world, and due to that, we can certainly say that the Indian culture and philosophy, this has played a strong influence on the world. And it is therefore very important that whatever this treasure of knowledge that we are having, this rich knowledge that we are having, it should be nurtured, it should be preserved for posterity. And simply by saying that, claiming that we had a rich knowledge systems may not be sufficient. We have to do research in all these areas. We have to see to it whether whatever claims or whatever has been said in these ancient texts, are they still relevant? And we have to see to it how they can be used for finding solutions for the modern day problems. So if we look around and refer, we will see that there has been many influential thinkers in ancient India. And on your screen, you can see some of these names, and we all might have heard about these names. But certainly, we may not be aware about what their contribution has been, like what impact that they have had on the Indian knowledge systems. So I think it is our moral responsibility also as teachers to see to it how, because Indian knowledge system is a very wide area. We have to see to it who are or what are the things that are relevant to our own subject or our own discipline, and try to integrate that during our teaching and learning. So, National Education Policy document in the section 4.27, it when they talk about knowledge of India, it means that the knowledge from the ancient India and how it has contributed to the modern India, what how it has been successful, or what are the challenges that has been placed, and we have to see to it how it is relevant in the current times, whether we are talking about the education or health or the environment or other such domains. And especially when we are talking about knowledge of India, that also means or that also includes the tribal knowledge and the indigenous and traditional ways of learning. Because in India, in all the parts of the country, you can say in certain pockets, you can see there are many tribal communities are there, and the knowledge or the uh, traditions that they are following, they are very confined to that particular region, and they are not very opened up, or we also are not aware about how it is relevant and what are the things that may still be useful. So when we are talking about knowledge of India, that also includes the tribal knowledge, and we have to see to it that the knowledge that is existing in these communities or in these areas, they should also be included in our curriculum. And it has also been suggested that we should design specific courses in tribal ethno-medicinal practices or forest management, how they are conserving the forest, how they are using traditional farming methods for crop cultivations, how they are using the natural farming without the use of any chemical fertilizers or pesticides. So all such courses can have also to be designed and offered to the students. So here, before I proceed further, I would also like to share one more observations by the renowned author Mark Twain very rightly observed that India is the cradle of human race, the birthplace of human speech, the mother of history, the grandmother of legend, and the great grandmother of tradition. And our most valuable and most constructive materials in the history of man are treasured up in India only. Now, coming to the question of IKS, so I would like to have some quick answers from the participants, like what do they think is IKS basically? Yes, please. आप में से कोई बताना चाहेगा कि जब आईकेएस टर्म सुनते हैं तो आपके जहन में क्या चीजें आती हैं? What do you think is basically IKS? I hope I'm audible.
Yeah, ma'am. Basically, I feel that whatever the Indian ancient things were going on, like we had Vigyan also, we have Gyan also, like the universities, various universities. Then we have scriptures in various languages like Pali and Prakrit and Sanskrit. So those are to be what I can say decoded and given to the new generation, and that is what I think the Indian knowledge system must have.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for that input. Any other participant would like to share? Yes, please. Yes, please, participants. There are over 85 participants here. Okay, when we are talking about IKS, I think we are reminded about this famous very parable about blind man and the elephant. I hope all of you have heard about this parable or story, you can say, where six blind men, they were asked to identify the elephant. And because since these people, they are blind since birth, they have not seen or heard anything about such an animal or such an creature like elephant. So they don't know what it actually is. So they are trying to feel the elephant and trying to identify what it actually is. And because elephant is something very huge, they can only feel a part of it. For instance, the person who is getting hold of the trunk says that it is a snake. The person who touches the tusks says that it is a spear. The person who touches the ears says that it is a fan. The person who feels the legs says that it is a pillar. The person who is touching the stomach or the body part of it says that it is a wall. And one who gets hold of the tail says that it is a snake. So I think similar is the case with the IKS also, because this domain, this term is so vast, and we only have only one perspective about it, which may not totally cover what actually involves or what ultimately falls under the IKS. So, to understand this term, I think we should first understand what do the words that comprise IKS, that the Indian knowledge and systems actually mean. So, when we are talking about Indian, that actually means the cultural rather than the political or geographical label. So when we are using the term Indian, that means the indigenous knowledge or indigenous sources of knowledge which were generated by the Indians. So here when we are talking about the Indians, it involves the geographical label of India, not the present geographical boundaries, but the undivided Indian subcontinent or the Akhand Bharat that ranged at that time from, say, Burma here till the Afghanistan, and from, you can say, Kanyakumari to Kashmir, you can say, right? And it also includes a demographic label, that is, it also includes the knowledge that has been generated by the Indians. Indians here are the people who have been born here or who have lived here, even if they were foreigners. They have came here, they have settled down here, they have lived here for a substantial period of time. They have fully integrated with the native culture, with the native practices. So, whatever knowledge that these people have created, they can be termed, they can fall under this label of Indian here. So, there are also many accounts that we see about many foreign travelers have also came here. They have also written many, you can find many documents that has been written by them. They have also translated the Indian text, but this repository of knowledge cannot be called as the IKS. You can say this is about IKS, but certainly this is not IKS. That is the accounts of the foreign travelers, that is the people who have not stayed over here. The second term that we hear about is the knowledge. So here the term knowledge means the information that is emanating from the wisdom and insights which is arising out of deep experiences, observation, and experimentation, and analysis and validation. And it is not that something has been blindly followed, this has been continuously, you can say, refined, it has been improved, it has been augmented. And this knowledge, you can say, it exists both in the formal form, that is, in the, you can find formal repositories of knowledge, which is available in the literary sources, but also in the informal form also. They are also available in the written form also, and also in the form of Shruti Parampara, or in the form of oral traditions. And you will see that this knowledge, this pervades all the three domains, that is spiritual, religious, social, and also the day-to-day issues. Third term here is the systems. So when we are talking about systems, it actually means that the methodology has been very structured, and it has this knowledge, you can say, it is not just scattered around, but it has been classified in a very systematic manner, in a very structured manner. And this, you can say, enables us to access the available corpus of knowledge, to transmit it, and to preserve it, right? So there are in some, you can say, experts, some observers, instead of using the term systems, they like to follow the term traditions. So, but that is also equally true here. So, as has been observed in the UGC guidelines for incorporating IKS in higher education curricula, it says that the IKS, when we are using the term IKS, it means something which is very systematized discipline of knowledge, and which were developed to a high degree of sophistication in India from ancient times, and all of the traditions and the practices that the various communities of India, including the tribal communities, have evolved, refined, and preserved over the generations. But there are also certain misconceptions that are surrounding around IKS. one of the most common misconception is that IKS is a discipline, subject, or specialization. So in the next few slides, what you see in red is what is actually a myth or a misconception, and closer to truth is something what is mentioned in the green font. So IKS is not a discipline. It is actually a label, you can say, which is given to a collection of disciplines which are interconnected to each other to varying degrees. Another misconception surrounding IKS is that IKS is something which is only available in Sanskrit, or it is only done by Sanskrit people. So now Sanskrit people, there is no such group of people who we can categorize as Sanskrit people, because Sanskrit is just a language. It has been a language, and IKS is expressed in all the Indian languages. It is just the case that the amount of literature that is available in Sanskrit is very, very large or very, very huge. But that doesn't mean that the IKS is only existing in the Sanskrit language only. Another misconception is that IKS is something that is very ancient. That is also a wrong notion, because IKS includes all the knowledge traditions of India, the past traditions and the present traditions, and new knowledge is created every day. And definitely, we are always refining it, we are always upgrading it. But that may be that only the principles have been what have maybe ancient ones, but it is always a dynamic process. So Indian knowledge system is not something that is only ancient, but something which is also evolving every day. Another misconception is that IKS is written by only by Hindus. Now, it also depends upon what we actually understand by Hindus. The term Hindu was initially used for the people who lived beyond the Sindhu River, and that Sindhu, that terminology gradually it was, you can say, derived or changed into Hindu, because so the term Hindu was actually used for the people who are living in this part of the country, right? So, but you will see that a lot of IKS is no doubt within the Hindu fold, but the Jains, Buddhas, Sikhs, and Muslims have also contributed to the Indian knowledge systems. Then again, one of the misconception is that IKS is only spiritualism. But that is something a wrong understanding, because IKS includes empirical sciences also, and India has made significant contributions in it. Whether we talk about linguistics or we are talking about astronomy, still you will see that the calculations are so up to the mark, you can say, so precise that by these calculations they are predict when will the lunar eclipse or when will be the solar eclipse taking place. And also the health sciences, the Ayurveda, Siddha, Unani, all these are also part of the IKS. The Vedic mathematics, how the metallurgy was so developed at that particular time. Then sometimes the over enthusiastic supporters of IKS also hold that wrong notion that IKS has answers to all our problems. Or sometimes people may make certain tall claims like our ancient teachers gave us all the solutions for all the problems that we may be having. So that is also a wrong notion, because our intellectual ancestors, they tried to find answers to the problems which were prevalent at that particular time. But that doesn't mean that they had answers for all the modern day problems. For example, whether we are talking about quantum physics or we are talking about cybersecurity, So all these things are some modern day problems. So we may not find the answers to it in the IKS. So that is not the case that IKS has solutions to all the modern day problems. Similarly, some people also say that IKS is only written by men. There is no representation of women in that. But you will see that there are many ancient texts which were contributed by learned women, and also many texts are also found which are written by Indian women. For instance, the hymns of Rig Veda, they were mainly compiled by rishis, but they also included 17 rishikas, that is the female rishis, or the Brahmavadinis, that is who revealed the sacred mantras and the shlokas of Brahma. So there are many women scholars, whether we are talking about Romasa, Lopamudra, Kadru, Vishwavara, Ghosha, Juhu, Vagambiri, uh, Kamaini, Urvashi, Yami, Indrani, Savitri, Devyani. So lots, many women scholars are also mentioned, right? So that is also a wrong notion that women scholars had no role to play. And also, some critics may also say that IKS is driven by blind beliefs and dogmas, which are primarily rooted in religious context. That is also not the case, because in the Indian tradition, there has been a culture or a practice of argument and counter argument. And this argument was conducted in a very rational and uh, professional manner. And there was a practice of Vad Vivad, right? If any person came up with a theory, it was opened up for discussion, right? And only after the consensus was reached, or when the agreement was reached, only then it was accepted. So to say that only blind beliefs find their way in IKS, that is also a wrong notion. And also to say that IKS is irrelevant or useless, that is also a misconception, because now it depends what we actually mean by use. Because no doubt the concepts have evolved, the tools have improved during the last hundreds of years. So there are progress in that aspect, but certainly the attitude and the methodology, they still remain relevant. So the question now arises, why IKS must be included in higher education? Because as I cited the cases of neem patents or turmeric patents, that happened because we ourselves were not aware about what is existing in our knowledge traditions, and we had not documented it properly. So that is why it is important that as individuals, our students, they should have pride in our cultural heritage. And sometimes referring to these ancient texts, referring to our ancient practices, we can also find problems for our modern day problems. For instance, for the stress or the mental health issues or concerns, meditation or the yogic practices have found to have significant benefits. So you can say that the modern day problems can also, solutions for them can also be found in the IKS. It also gives a more holistic pedagogy, right? Where there is a more connect between the student and the teacher. It is also a valuable tool for value-based education. If you refer to our ancient stories like your Panchatantra or Hitopdesha, you see that there is a lesson at the end of these stories. So that certainly can be used for imparting value-based education to our students. It also helps to connect to the local culture. Like now, when we are talking about IKS, that also includes the Indian traditional knowledge systems. So when we are including the knowledge that is prevailing in the local communities, that helps us to connect with the students also who are coming from those regions or who are coming from those communities also. And it also has neuroscientific benefits like yoga, your not only the various yogic postures, but meditation. So that also has many research, many studies have indicated that they also offer neuroscientific benefits. So over the years, you will see that this knowledge traditions has been eroded and many reasons are attributed to it. One of the prime reasons is that we ourselves are not aware about it. There is unawareness about it. And also, there has been a migration of the population. People are migrating from the villages to the small towns and from the small towns to the metros. And as the people move, they somehow leave behind those practices, that knowledge systems, and also the inequality also has played some role in some cases, because in many of the communities, the traditional knowledge was only passed on from father to son. And if there is no son, you will see that knowledge will be not transmitted by the father to anyone else. And so there will be a disruption or the loss of that knowledge forever. And also, with the modernization, we are adapting newer lifestyles, newer technologies. Our everything is changing. The what we eat, what we wear. So all the things has also lost to the our ancient practices also. And also, financial support. This has also been a cause of concern because, as I suggested, if you have to do research in these areas, if you have to validate the claims that have been made, for that purpose, we will be requiring funds to conduct research. And somehow, during earlier, there were not sufficient funds which supported research projects or project proposals which are written in these areas. And also, the generation gap has always been there. The younger generation somehow fails to connect with these older ways of doing the things, if I can say that. And also, there has not been any proper documentation because many of the things have been transmitted through Shruti Parampara only, from only through oral traditions. And if that is not documented properly, that knowledge may be lost forever. So that is how you will see that the why it has been emphasized in the national education policy to inculcate or to integrate IKS, because through IKS we can ensure holistic development of the individuals, because we are not only imparting knowledge and skills in the students about the ancient practices or say traditional farming methods, their traditional weaving methods, traditional ways of um, handling many things, you can say, and also to inculcate responsibilities and values. It also is uh, very instrumental in reinforcing the beliefs and habit development of personality and character, for building up moral strength and moral excellence, for inculcating a sense of responsibility, for valuing and respecting shram or labor, because there are many, uh, you can say, traditional occupations which are not having any takers, because the younger generation, they are moving away from these traditional occupations, and all of them are somehow uh, looking for employment beyond that rich source of knowledge that they are having, right? So that is how, if they can go back to it, it is also can be a tool for startups, for entrepreneurship as well. Now, going to the what are the frameworks for the IKS? There is so much of you can say information or texts that are available, and many frameworks have been given for classifying this knowledge. And one of the frameworks that also has been mentioned in Arthashastra, that says that Aniviksiki Trai Varta Dandanitishcha iti Vidya. That means Anaviksiki means the science of inquiry, Trai, that is the Veda, Varta, that is the commerce or the trade, and Dandaniti, that is the governance. So these four are regarded as the four basic sciences. So this is one classification. Then there is another one more classification which talks about Chaturdasha Vidyasthana, or the 14 traditional disciplines. So these 14 traditional disciplines included Purana, Nyaya, Mimamsa, Dharma Shastra, Vedangas, that is 6 Vedangas, then 4 Vedas. So these 14 constituted the Chaturdasha Vidyasthana, and they were considered as the roots of knowledge and dharma. Then subsequently, 4 more were added to this, that is Ayurveda, Gandharva Veda, Arthashastra, and Dhanurveda. And that is 14 plus 4, that is the 18, or the Ashtadasha Vidyasthanas. Then these Chaturdasha Vidyasthana, what does it include? The 4 Vedas, which were basically transmitted through Shruti Parampara. These included the Rig Veda, Sama Veda, Yajur Veda, and Atharva Veda. Then 6 Vedangas, these included the Shiksha, that is phonetic, Vyakarna, that is grammar, Chandas, that is the prosody, then Nirukta, that is the etymology, Kalpa, that is the ritual manual, and Jyotisha, that is the chronometry. Apart from that, it is Nyaya, sorry, that is logic and epistemology, then Mimamsa, that is the hermeneutics, then Dharma Shastra, that is the social and legal codes, both for collective and individuals. And then Puranas, which were basically talking about creation and dissolution of the universe, chronology of different Manus and dynasties. And this includes Itihasas like Ramayanas and the Mahabharata. Then these 18 Shilp, it is another classification, is based on the 18 Shilps or 18 skills, you can say. And these 18 skills included vocal music, instrumental music, dancing, painting, mathematics, accountancy, engineering, you can say, sculpture, agriculture, cattle breeding, and all, medicine, law. Even there was one shilp for snake charming and poison antidotes, and also the art of finding hidden treasures also. Then there is also talk about this Chausat Kalaएं, that is 64 forms of art. So this, it was said that complete individual or the holistic individual, they should have a mastery of as many as 64 traditional art, which were referred to as the Chausat or the Chatushashti Kalas, and this was considered to be very important for leading a worldly life. So these Chauset Kalas, you can say, these include not only Geet Vidya, Vadya Vidya, Nritya Vidya, Natya Vidya, then also the one art was for your that is Kriya, that is art of preparing, sorry, Chitra Sakappa Bhakshya Vikara Kriya, that is the art of preparing varieties of delicious food. Then there is Kavya Samasya Purana. Then there is Dhatu Vada, that is the art of metallurgy. Then there is the art of your Desha Bhasha Gyana, that is the art of knowing provincial dialects. So in this form, there were 64 forms of arts were there. Now, what are the various sources of IKS? So, these sources of IKS can be classified into literary sources and the non-literary sources. So, literary sources, majority of the documents are found in the Sanskrit, no doubt, but there are also other non-Sanskrit sources also, which includes Bauddha and Jaina regional language sources, and even literature is also available in Arabic and Persian sources also. And there are also the testimonials or the secondary sources. That is, testimonials are the observations that have been written by the travelers from other countries who have visited India at that particular time, and they have went back and they have written what they have observed or what they have seen here. Then comes the non-literary sources. Non-literary sources includes the archaeological sources and then the living practices. Now, the archaeological sources, these include not only the sculptures and the monuments, because when we are looking at the sculptures and the ancient monuments, we get indirectly we come to know about their artistic expression. We can come out about what were the materials that were used, what were the skills that the people had at that time, and whatever is depicted in those sculptures, that also gives us a glimpse about their day-to-day life as well. Then, when excavations are taking place at different sites, and the materials that are obtained at the excavation site, they also give the evidence about the past life. And there are then these literary and historical texts, which also gives us an indirect insight into the ancient Indian society. Then there are these inscriptions and epitaphs, which also gives us the direct insight into the historical event. Now, these on your slide, you can see some of the archaeological sources. Can you identify what you can see on the extreme left? This one, both these two figures. Yes, please answer. Am I the only one here in this meeting?
Participant, I think we should interactive. I have, before opening the session, I have already told you that. Kindly answer the question. Please, anyway.
Because you all are also teachers, and you are well aware what experience you have when you are taking a class in online mode, and if nobody is interacting from the other end. So I'm not very sure whether my voice is getting to you, or you are able to follow whatever sharing out here. So yes, what is this figure? What is this picture? This is some temple, you can see. And what is so special about this temple? And which temple is this? Very famous temple. These are the temples of Hampi. And the special thing about these is that the pillars that you see here, these are musical pillars. So it is a wonder like what technology or what skills the people had at that time, because this is not only about carving such beautiful structures, carving pillars out of the stones, but it also gives us an understanding about what were the tools which were available at that time to cut these stones, right? And they have an understanding about the sound engineering, about the acoustics, that they were able to design these musical pillars, right? So that gives us some evidence about how developed their technology was for preparing such beautiful and such structures which are having some other utility as well. Now, what can you see in the middle of the slide? What is this structure? This is the Nalanda Parisar, right? Nalanda University or Nalanda Vishwavidyalaya. And this was one of the largest university in the world at that particular time, where scholars and teachers used to come from different countries, right? And it was so huge that it could house almost 10,000 people. It is said that they had almost 8,000 students and 2,000 teachers at that particular time. And below you can see the modern day structure of the Nalanda University. And on the end of the screen, on the right hand side, you can see what is at Takshashila, which is the first, largest, and the oldest university which is known in the world. And where is this Takshashila presently? In which part of the country is it?
Ma'am, it is in Tamil Nadu.
No, Shashila, not in Tamil Nadu. It is in modern day Pakistan, right? But at that time, it was, you can say, that was part of the Indian Empire or Indian domain, and that is why it is, I have mentioned here as the in the as a source of IKS, because if you go and study the structures, you will find what are the systems that were followed at that particular time. Then on your screen, you can see this Mohenjo-daro, right? Some remains of Mohenjo-daro. What is special about this Mohenjo-daro? What is it known for? From whatever remains are available, what conclusions can be drawn confidently? Yes, this Mohenjo-daro we have been studying right from school, right? What is it? What conclusions, what observations can be made from this? That they were very planned cities. They are very good examples of town planning. Very uniform structures were there. They had uh, very good drainage system. And it is surprising that the structures are made up of uniform bricks. So that means that they had certain manufacturing units. Did they have some manufacturing units to prepare these uniform sized bricks? And what it is a good indication about why, how we have to go for modern day town planning also. Then on your left, right hand side, you can see these step wells. Such step wells can be found in many parts of the Gujarat and Rajasthan, in the areas where there is very low rainfall. So these valves, they were called, these step wells, and these are very beautiful pieces of architecture, very fine engravings are there in these structures which are made up of stone, but they are also constructed in such a way that they were used for water harvesting, right? So that also gives us the indication, or by studying these structures, can give us the ideas about how we can go for preservation of the groundwater or the rainwater. Then these are also many parts. There are also these Panchaloha idols. These Panchaloha idols, these are basically sculptures which has been traditionally these have been prepared with a 5 metal alloy. Usually they were made up of gold alloy, which was made up of gold, silver, copper, tin and zinc, or sometimes instead of zinc, iron was also used. And the term Panchloha comes from the word Pancha, which means five, and Loha means metal here. So it is a surprise that how these alloys were used for making such beautiful statues with such beautiful structures, such beautiful shapes, with such beautiful engravings, right? So these idols, these were made by using the lost wax casting method. Now, what is this lost wax casting method? Here you can see that this technique was used for making metal statues, in which in the first phase wax sculpture was made in the image of whatever final uh, you wanted, that idol, metal idol. In that structure, these metal sculptures were made, and these wax structures were then covered with clay, and these wax structures covered with clay, this was then heated, this was then baked, and as it was heated, the wax, it melted away, but it hardened the clay structure. So now what you have is a hollow structure with beautiful design inside, which is covered with clay. So since wax has melted away, so into this, the metal was heated, it was melted, and this molten metal was placed inside these clay casing, and then it was cooled. And once the metal is cooled, it takes the shape that has been left out by the lost wax. And after that, the that was clay casing, it is broken away, and what you get is a metal image. So this was a basic process that has been used since long. And one of the very famous statues you will see that is made by this lost wax technique. What is this famous structure? By what name do we call it? Yes, please. So this is known as the dancing girl of this figurine is known as the dancing girl of Mohenjo-daro, and this has been dated back to 2500 BC, and this was prepared by the lost wax dokra casting technique, and it indicates that this technique was known to us almost 4000 years ago. And there are many more such structures. One wonder is this rustless iron pillar which is present near Qutub Minar in Mehrauli in Delhi. And the thing about this iron pillar is that even though it has been there for over centuries, it is still rustless. And such iron pillars can be found in many other parts of the country, whether there are such structures in MP, in Rajasthan, in Mount Abu, in Orissa also. In Konark, there are such 29 iron beams. In Puri also, such 239 pillars have been found under the sea, and it is still rustless. So that indicates that during the ancient times also, our metallurgical industry was very well developed. It was very well developed. And another very ancient art was about the wood steel. this was the steel that was produced by a method only in India at that particular time. And it what actually was the property of this wood steel was that this steel had very uniform composition of which having around 1 to 1.6 percentage of carbon. And another property was that due to this composition, it could be heated and it could be forged into bars, which can be later on made into other articles. And Damascus swords, that was the famous thing that was made with this woods steel, right? And if you just go on to see how that iron and steel industry has developed over the years, because even way back in 1100 BC, iron from megalithic sites such as Hallur, which has been dated to 1100 BC, has been found. In 326 BC, it is said that King Porus presented Alexander with 30 pounds of Indian iron. And in many part of the South India also, for example, in the Kodumalai in Tamil Nadu, crucible processes which are related to steel are found. Even in Arthashastra also, which is dated back to 300 BC, Kautilya has showed that the knowledge of minerals, including the iron ores and the art of extracting metals, was existing. The pillar that the picture I had showed you that was later on moved to Delhi, that has been dated back to 320 AD. In 12th century, the iron and steel that was exported from the Malabar region by the Jewish merchants, and even the iron beams which are used in the construction of Sun Temple in Konar, they have been dated back to 13th century AD. And in similar way, you will see that how the iron industry has evolved during all these years. In 1870, Bengal Iron Works was established at Kulti. Then 1907, Tata Iron and Steel Company was established. And later on, all these steel plants were established in different parts of the country at Rourkela, Durgapur, Bhilai, and Bokaro and all. So you can see a natural progression about how we have leveraged on the ancient skills or the practices that were or the expertise that we had in this particular area. Another very important uh, you can see evidences are about the downward drift distillation process for extraction of the zinc. So one thing about zinc is that it is very difficult to extract pure zinc because zinc, it has a melting point of around 410 degrees centigrade, and it has a boiling point at 930, and then it vaporizes. And zinc, the thing is that it reacts with the atmospheric oxygen, and it forms zinc oxide at around 550 degree centigrade. So that means that it has to be condensed below that temperature to prevent the oxidization of zinc. So uh, in ancient India, they had this technique of downward drift distillation process, where these structures, where two pots were used, one placed above, it had the solid charge which was sealed with clay, and a lower pot here, this served as the condenser. And on heating the upper these pots, the zinc was heated, it was uh, converted and to vapors, and the downward distillation through this, the vapors were condensed and it was collected in these pots. And there are many evidences are there which indicates, especially in the Rajasthan area, Zawar mines, this holds the evidence about how the zinc was smelted in these areas, and these remains, they have been dated back to over 2180 years. And these ancient furnaces with each it have had 36 retorts, and each retort produced over 10 to 15 kgs of zinc per smelt. And over such 130,000 tons of such residues are still found in Zawar area, which indicates that we had extracted over 1 million tons of zinc at that particular time, and indicates about what how the metallurgical marvel we were. Then there are certain living practices also in many parts of the country. You will see many folk songs, many folk cultures, ritual theaters are there, which are also indicative about our knowledge traditions. For instance, in Maharashtra, there are these folk theaters. That one is that these Pavada. This is where it is basically Marathi poetry of valor. Then Dashavatara is there, which is also one of the folk theaters. And the downward distillation process that I was talking about in Kannauj area of UP, there are these. This is famous for making these attars or these essences, and one of these attars are still uh, produced by ancient techniques only, and no modern machineries are used for preparing these attars. And one of the very distinct attars that you can find in these areas is the mitti ka attar, that is the fragrance of the what we observe after the first rains, that smell, that is also available as a uh, essence, and it has been manufactured by this downward drift distillation process. So there are many such living practices in many parts of the country, and for instance, these kuti atom is one of the ancient Sanskrit classical drama, which is available with modern traditions. And such living traditions are not only confined to one community, but for instance, in Kerala, there is one traditional wedding dance, which is performed by Muslim women, which is known as the Uppana. And if you just closely examine this, this has a resemblance to the Kaikottikali, that is one of the practices, which is ancient dances, which is performed by Hindu women. But this Uppana, this is a mix of this Kaikottikali plus the Arabian dance ritual, which is prevalent in Arabian countries. Similarly, a folk dance of Syrian Christian community, that is also practiced till date in the form of Margam Kali. So there are many such living traditions. For example, Kalaripayattu, which is the mother of, you can say, martial arts. And not only the martial arts, but it also has practice, like how before the student starts the exercise regimen, there is this application of oil, of herbal oil over the body. So these are all part of the living traditions, and there are also many literary sources, also many, as I said, many foreign travelers who have visited India at that particular time. For example, Ait Singh, he was a Chinese traveler who learned Sanskrit in Sumatra. He observed that India is the celestial storehouse of knowledge. Al-Andalus, in his categories of nation in 11th century, he had observed that the first nation to have cultivated sciences is India, and over many centuries, all the kings of the past have recognized the ability of the Indians in all the branches of knowledge. Similarly, one of the major uh, surgeons, you can say Sir Joseph Banks, who was the president of the British Royal Society, he has said that about the wood steel. He said that the steel which are produced in India, it is the best steel because it can be used or it can be adapted for making fine cutlery, and it can also be used for making edge instruments which are useful for surgical purposes. So in such way, there are many more testimonial or secondary sources. Then there are certain literary manuscripts also, and no doubt more manuscripts are available in Sanskrit, Prakrit, and Aprabhamsa, but other languages also, whether it is Hindi or Tamil, Gujarati, Persian, Kannada, Telugu, Marathi, Bengali, even in Arabic, in Tibetan, in Sinhalese, in all these languages also, IKS are available. So you will see many uh, important texts are available in Indian Indian in languages, and even in Marathi also, which is uh, has been uh, has been given the status of classical language, and that also indicates the rich uh, structure of the Marathi language and how it has been used as a language for cultural expression and communication. Many literary forms, many literary heritage, which includes poetry, prose, and folklore. These are available even in these languages. And one of the earliest known literary works in Marathi is Gatha Saptasati, and which is considered to be almost 2000 years old. Similarly, Leela Charitra and Gyaneshwari, these are also some ancient texts, right? And so, in this way, you will see that the literary sources are available, and which gives also shows us how there is a need to study all these texts, to go for its translations, to go for its interpretations. And even the Ministry of Education, it has constituted this IKS division. You can always go back and refer to this website. And they are also providing funds for conducting research projects in the areas which are related to IKS, and they are also finding funding support for starting Center of IKS in various universities and institutes. So it is with this I would like to end, and uh, if there are any questions or if there are any observations, I would be very happy to take that.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am. Before taking the questions, I would like to inform here on this platform. Recently, the IKS division has communicated two research project to our university that we have interdisciplinary collaborated. The Department of Botany and the Department of Chemistry, novel drug discovery, drug discovery in the region of Melghat. So that is the first project, and another one project is the related to this Tamrapatra that is very near to situated in the Buddhakalin Tamrapatra at our Morshi. That is one of the taluka place.
Okay.
In that, so particular to these projects are awarded to the university recently, ma'am, in the last week.
Yeah,
Participants,
congratulations for
thank you, ma'am. Thank you so
congratulations.
much. Participants, if you have any questions or the queries, you can please ask here because very much important topic, and ma'am has elaborated in a very brief way. So you can take if we will really appreciate if there are some questions. Please, Irina.
And we have to see to it, like, because this domain is so vast, we have to see to it, like, what are the areas which are relevant to our subject, and we should try to include the IKS or try to explore the areas which are related to IKS.
Yes, having any questions? No, I think there are no no questions from the participant sides.
Okay, okay then, yeah.
Can we conclude, ma'am, if you could
Ah,
conclude?
yes, sure, we can.
So on behalf of Malvi Mission Teacher Training Center, Sant Gadge Baba Amaravati University and Priyadarshini College of Engineering, Nagpur, and all the participants, I extend my sincere thanks to you, ma'am, for your precious time and thought-provoking session here. You have briefly elaborated the different concept of this Indian knowledge system from the language perspective to ancient knowledge perspective, and definitely ma'am it will be helpful for drafting our syllabus as well as our research, because the research on this IKS is ongoing, but we have to come up with certain domain specific IKS courses, and it is a very need of in the today's era, because I think every university has having some generic courses of 2 credit of IKS, but the domain specific courses are not at all there. And UGC also taking, UGC in the Ministry of Education is also taking the serious cognizance of that. So participants, hope it will be beneficial for us. I once again extend my sincere thanks to you, ma'am, for your precious time and thought-provoking session here. And with the kind consent of Professor Suresh, ma'am, I would like to declare that this session will be over here. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, and thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you everyone, and wishing you all the very best. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.